All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're waiting for Coach Johnson here. I think everyone that's on the call should have recording privileges right now. If not, just shoot me a note in the chat. And we'll do the same drill with the questions as usual.
Hey, Ben, do you know when the scrimmages are, or can you tell us, or do you know?
I don't right now.
All right.
Hey, Coach.
How we doing?
Doing great, doing great. Thanks for joining us. We know you have a busy schedule ahead, so the format will be, we'll ask the reporters to type their questions in the chat, and I will moderate and set up the questions, and we'll go from there. And we have about 20 minutes today for Coach Johnson. So
awesome, good deal. Appreciate you guys jumping on.
We'll get started with questions. If you can put them in the chat, we'll go in order. We'll go from there. We'll start with Matt Wenzel with MLive.
Hey, Jay, I guess just right off the bat, quarterback is obviously the position everybody wants to know about. So, you know, in a couple weeks, they're starting practice back up again and, you know, into padded practice for a few days. What's your take on the position?
Yeah, that's a good question. I kind of want to know that too. So but it's been good. You know, right now, I think kind of the most veteran guys, and Rocky, Peyton, and Theo are the guys that have been getting all the reps. And quite frankly, I've been moving all three of them together, tracking them every day. They're pretty almost very, very equal right now in total amount of reps in both basically 7-on-7 and team activities. So, you know, I guess at this point, I've seen some good things, but then I've also seen some inconsistent things. And, you know, I guess the biggest decider for me, right, you know, we've been out there and kind of, you know, running around with just our helmets, but obviously we've just been out there in 2 days in pads. And so now it starts to come to be a little bit more. So still in that process, I think I'll have a better take of where we're at probably in, you know, another week or two, just because it's more real when we have pads on. Everything is so much more real, and only having 2 days, a lot of unanswered questions. But right now I've really wanted to look at all of them and look at all of them somewhat equally since I'm the new guy on the block. And so they've both been doing all of them been doing some positive things, but yet there's been some inconsistencies that we're working through. So a lot to be determined yet there, but I do like the progress that we're making.
And to follow up, Rocky's obviously got the most experience in that group by far. But like you said, new guy, new offense, all that. Does his previous experience, just regardless of the offense, give him a natural kind of leg up, or is it kind of all reset and start from scratch with you guys?
Yeah, I think, you know, to be quite frank, I mean, anybody that has playing experience, obviously, you know, it's just different. I mean, it's hard to get that game day type of experience, and he certainly has more, I think, and you guys probably know this better than I do, but Theo had played a few sparing snaps, I think, but not much, and obviously Peyton was redshirted. So yeah, I definitely think there's a little bit of innate things there because he has had some of that game time stuff, but you know, everything was new that we're doing, new languages, new terms, new everything. And so I've really, you know, through the 18,000 Zoom meetings that we've had for the last, all of us, as we sit here today on Zoom, you know, I've really been impressed with all of them and their football foundation. You know, obviously the guys, you know, did a nice job with them here in the past. And so I think they all have really a very solid foundation. We're just hoping to build on that.
Thank you.
Next question is from Chris Solar, the Detroit Free Press.
Jay, good to see you. I guess the first part of my question is, how does a quarterback have a successful career and hold off a Hall of Famer behind him for 3 years?
Great question. Here's my response to that. He's worth millions, and I'm a great trivia question. That's exactly right.
But that's obviously there's history that it doesn't necessarily mean that a backup can't move into that role and have that kind of success. I mean, I guess
No,
how do you apply that to this situation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very much the case, and it's hard to know. I mean, so many things are kind of situational too, with what the foundation of the team is. What are the surrounding cast and characters of the current situation. So yeah, I definitely seen that. My time at Georgia, we had different people playing, and injuries over the past year. So yeah, I don't think there's, it is what it is. And I think that, guys will position themselves, even if in that backup role. I think it's going to be competitive for a long time at that spot.
Next question is from Stephen Brooks with 24/7 Sports.
Hey, Jay, hope you're doing well. I wanted to ask you, based on what you've seen so far, and I understand that's not much, but based on that, do you foresee this quarterback battle or competition going into the season even, and sort of needing those live reps to determine things? And if so, how do you sort of structure that when you go into a game week? Like,
Right.
We're still got to see some of this stuff, from these guys.
Yeah, that's a good question, Stephen. I don't, I guess I could see it going that way if there's not a clear picture presented to us and the staff and the team. I think there's always a chance of that, but also playing the position, that gets hard too. When you get into that role at times, I mean, there's positives and negatives to that. So, if we have to go that route, we could, but I'm hoping here in the next 3 weeks that through, a bunch more practice that we have it coming up, that things can kind of present a pretty clear picture. So, that's my goal, but I'm not afraid, or, and I'm not unwilling to do that if that's what we need to do. I'd prefer not to, but if we have to get there because it's not a clear picture, we will.
Is that what you were just saying a second ago? Is that sort of a tricky thing, you mean, like in a real game week to sort of extend that competition and map out?
It is a little bit because, so much of your preparation, just because of your practice reps, and there's so many different things there that, you need to, you need to get the guys the reps so they're prepared for the game. And then obviously now you're trying to work 2 of them. And then, are you getting the critical reps to both of them that they might, that you want to be prepared if that situation comes to be on a Saturday. So that is a little bit of a juggling act. And, you always need to, because of, as we've all seen, the backup quarterback, as was just mentioned by Chris, becomes so prevalent. That guy needs to be prepped, but obviously you're going to give the one guy a little bit more. And so it is kind of an interesting juggling act, but all the guys got to be prepared. And we talk about it each and every day with the Qs, man. When the opportunity presents itself, are you going to be ready? And that's why, so much of the elite quarterbacks, and even at our level, they got to do a lot on their own to get where they need to be prepared.
Thank you.
Next question is from Lindsey Huddleston.
Hi, Jay. You talk about football foundations, inconsistencies, and things like that, and getting prepared on their own. What's something that these athletes can do to help with that transition, or what is something that they take for granted that they can really work on, so when there's a 3-way race, they could set themselves apart?
I think that's a great question. For me, a lot of it goes to your preparation and kind of what you're doing away from here, and from the standpoint of, at the end of the day, really, and you certainly have to know what we're doing offensively, but the keys to the success come on what's the defense trying to do to you. And so to me, it's that study and that preparation. You talk about the great ones in the league, and, you heard of Peyton Manning and his notebook. Well, he kept his notebook so he didn't become complacent with the process. A lot of times his notebook was to look at and take notes on defenders that he was playing over the years, and he kept that, and he journaled that. And so that's kind of the things that I'm looking at. And I've talked to these guys. I said, right now, our opponent is our defense. It isn't Rutgers. We haven't talked about Rutgers, but for you to prepare yourself and have success, even in the practice setting, you got to figure out what the defense is trying to do to us. So to me, a lot of that foundation is really understanding the basic fundamentals of defensive football, and then being able to see that in film study, to see that in practice and game, and then applying it to the proper use.
Very good. Thank you.
Next question is from Audrey Dahlgren with WLNS.
Hi, Jay. Thank you.
You bet.
I just wanted to touch upon Elijah and Jaden. Were kind of mentioning along the lines that, you guys obviously want to have plays this year, make plays this year. That's a goal for the offense, obviously put some points on the board, that kind of thing. But what is your overall vision, I guess, when it comes to what you want Michigan State's offense to look like?
Yeah, it's I guess at the end of the day, if you talk to most probably coordinators, they'd say, well, let's be balanced. And well, sure, I want to be balanced. I think in this day and age, first of all, though, you have to be able to throw it and you have to be able to run it. And I think that when I always look at things, what do we have to do in this situation to be successful? And sometimes that game might lend itself to throwing the ball a lot more. Another game might lend itself to running the ball a little bit more. And I'm unafraid to do either one of them and what we have to do. And I think there's sometimes you can see that even change throughout the game. And so, I want to be as multiple as we can in how we present things, but yet our guys need to play at a high level and because they're obviously going against some great talented guys here and they got to be able to make the plays. So we got to put them in a position to make plays. And again, by me dialing that up, it really depends. What is that game calling for? Where are we at with our team? And we're even in the process of all of us as a staff trying to figure that out, just in having 2 days in pads. And so I think we're getting a little better take, but I'm excited to see what the next couple 2 to 3 weeks bring.
And then obviously just a short sample size that you have had, but with Elijah, do you see him maybe being a little bit like quicker, or where is his speed at, or how, because, he wants to turn some of the long runs he had last year into touchdowns. That's a big emphasis for him. So where do you see him at that point?
Yeah, I think Elijah looks solid right now. I think he is, he looks good and he's done a nice job even during our kind of our restrictions prior to being able to come back and get started again and trying to take care of himself. So I think he's made some progress there. I know that he's excited with Coach Novak and the strength and conditioning guys and what they're doing for him and helping him there. But I know that's a big point of emphasis of them. And I do think it's trending the right way. Obviously time will tell once we get out there on Saturdays to see what the final result is, but I think it's positive at this point.
Thank you.
Next question, we'll go back to Matt Wenzel with MLive.
Jay, the offensive line, obviously, injuries last 2 years, played a lot of guys last year. I think 10 different starting line. Returned 10 different guys who started at least one game, I believe. What's your take on them? And I obviously, just being a couple of days into padded practice, that's kind of a, maybe a little tougher to evaluate than some other positions, but
right, yeah, a little challenge. No, right now, I'm blessed. I mean, we have probably the best O-line coach, one of the best ones in the country, and Coach Kapilovic and Chris Kapilovic. And so, and he and I have been around together, each other for a long time. And so I know he's going to put him in a good position. I think, like you said, we're all trying to learn him a little bit, particularly now that the pads have come on. But I think that, the biggest thing that I see right now is they're willing. They're willing and they're not afraid to be physical. And so we're trying to juggle the pieces and get it all put into place. But, I think it's, a bunch of guys that are willing to work hard right now. And I do know they had some injury situations in the past. And, that is hard at the offensive line. You try to establish that consistency. And it's a challenge when you have those guys in and out. But, we're really trying to develop the entire roster. And I think we're making progress. And so, again, it would be nice to, once we get into some more padded situations, to kind of see who keeps rising to the top. Right now, it's a little early for me to truly identify that, but I know it's coming.
Thank you.
Next question, I'll go back to Chris Solari, the Detroit Free Press.
Yeah, kind of along those lines, Scotty yesterday talked a little bit about right now trying to build the depth, basically coaching towards potential COVID issues. How much do you guys as a staff kind of talk and address that? And how have you, I guess, from a position by position room, work to that, both the mental side of preparing these guys that, hey, maybe we need to shut some things down, but you guys need to be ready for that.
Right. Yeah, it's a huge piece of our daily discussions. I mean, I can't tell you how much of our discussion involves just COVID situations on a daily basis. I mean, I have a depth chart on every day. I have a column that has COVID situations, and so everybody's dealing with it. It's just a part of I guess, the new normal right now. But, what we're constantly looking at, as we talked about with Coach Tuck and all that, developing the whole roster, Scotty mentioned as well. And then I'm even starting to look, okay, well, now I have a certain player in maybe this position. Boy, if something happens here, can I move that player over here? And we haven't made any of those changes yet. But we're looking at that because, as you know, you could get impacted pretty quickly. And so we're trying to look at what are there some of those, kind of, I guess in baseball, those utility guys that might have the ability to do several things for us. And we're trying to identify those guys. And then I think now that we've gotten the pads on it, and we'll get through this first week here, first few days with pads, we might start looking at maybe even cross-training some players to help us in those situations if we do get impacted.
Next question, we'll go back to Stephen Brooks with 24/7 Sports.
Hey, Jay, I guess just sort of running down the positions. I remember you said the QB is the CEO, but I think you said the tight end is the MVP of what you like to do. And so what is that position looking like? Trenton, I think, is the guy at the end of last year who was really sort of coming on. What have you seen from those guys so far?
Yeah, no, I think, they've done some good things. Obviously, Trenton, has played, and obviously Matt Dotson has played a lot here. Obviously had the injury that he's still coming back from. But, I think it's a solid group. I really do. And I kind of say they're the MVP because they have to do an awful lot for us. They got to run. They got to be able to pass protect. They got to run routes. They got to do a little bit of everything. And so we've been moving them all over and trying to experiment with them. And again, I think there's some young guys, and we've tried to even look at a couple wild cards there to help us. But I do like some of the things I'm seeing. Another guy that's done some good things for us is Adam Berghorst. Really has done a nice job and has shown some good physicality in our early practices. So I'm excited about Adam. That deal. Another young man that we're working with is Tyler Hunt. Tyler Hunt kind of came in and has really done some good things. Was more in the specialist category. You guys probably never heard of Tyler Hunt. But he's done some really positive things. And so, Coach Gilmore and those guys are doing a good job. So, yeah, I'm excited about the position because I think we're kind of well-versed there. I think we have some different styles of players, which I think will bode well for us.
If I could quickly follow up, how did Tyler Hunt end up there? Because I don't think he ever practiced there or did any of that.
No, somebody kind of brought him to our attention, and mentioned, and then they said, he was a really impactful player on special teams in general. And so when you looked at him physically, we're like, man, and so we said, let's do it. So we started that process during the summer, and obviously it's quite a transition for him. But he seems to be catching on, and his athletic ability does show up. So I'm excited to kind of get a few more padded days with him and see how he can progress.
Is he still kicking as well, just to clarify?
I hate to say this, but I don't know the entire answer to that question.
All right, fair enough.
I think
Thanks,
he
Jeff.
is, but I'm not quite entirely sure.
That works. Appreciate it.
All right, we have time for a few more. We'll go back to Matt Charbonneau, the Detroit News.
Hey Jay, listen, when we see a punter on the kick return team last year, we start to know who this guy is. I mean, come on.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I mean, better than I did. I mean, it's like, you tell me a punter's going to play tight end. I was all confused when they first brought it up to me, but now it makes sense.
Yeah, it's getting interesting now. But I wanted to keep, if we're hitting a few positions here, I know we talk a lot about quarterback, but he's got to have some weapons too. And I know on the outside receiver, there's not a ton of experience there, but some interesting guys that could be dynamic players like Jaden Reed, Jalen Naylor, a guy who's been around a little bit. I just wonder if you could kind of give us an update on that spot and how you see it.
Very, very much so. I agree with you. I think Jalen Naylor, in his early practices, obviously coming from the injury as well, has done some real positive things. So I'm really excited about him. Another guy that obviously with the transition of transferring Jaden Reed, really has shown some good things. So I'm excited about those guys. A little bit new, but they've shown the ability to make some plays. The other guy that's really done a good job making plays for us early has been Trey Mosley. Trey has done some really nice things there. So I'm excited about them. I really am. I think those top guys have done some nice things. CJ Watts also has been in there and doing some positive things. And then I'm kind of excited about some of the newcomers. They've shown some good skill sets. So I do like those top guys that you mentioned, and they have shown some good productivity early, and we hope we can keep that going.
Thanks, Coach.
Next question is from Zach Serdnek with Impact Sports.
Thanks, Coach. we've talked a little bit about the start of camp. I'm just kind of wondering if there was anybody that's really kind of impressed you with the start of this, that kind of showed something that you weren't sure that they had coming in, as kind of been impressive early.
Right. There's a couple guys, one in particular for me is Spencer Brown, offensive lineman, big skill set, and he's still raw and still has a lot of growing to do, and learning the game and all that. But man, his ability and want to play, and as big as he is and the athleticism he shows is really exciting. We got him playing at tackle right now, so I'm really excited about Spencer. I think he's done some good things. And then, there's been other guys, some of the running backs. I think our running back group is pretty solid. Connor Haywood's done some things. Obviously, we have Elijah. Anthony Williams, is talented. Another new one on the block is Jordan Simmons, who's really, really been pretty impressive early in camp. And I know it's really early and we got to get more padded days to truly get a final eval on that. But those are some of the guys right now that I've been impressed with.
And last question, we'll go back to Chris Solari one last time, the Detroit Free Press.
Just to clarify, you'd mentioned CJ Watt. You mean CJ Hayes or Jazz?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I got confused with Jazz Watt. CJ Hayes. Yeah, my fault. Yeah,
I figured that's what it was. No worries. At this time of the year, without having spring ball, and you mentioned the Hunt situation, are there any other position, I don't want to say moves, but experiments maybe that are happening right now? Or do you?
No, not that. That's the main one right now. But we have looked at some possible ones, moving forward, but we haven't done anything at this point.
And just kind of the final piece here is how, when you have less than a month to basically have the full install, I mean, how much can you do right now? How much do you have to dial back? And what's, I guess, your goal maybe for game one from maybe a percentage standpoint?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to put a percentage on it. I think, we went really hard with install for the first, I think 6 days. We were pretty much full tilt, and then I cut it back, and then I paused it for a minute because I did feel like we hit a little bit of the overload mode, which I was trying to challenge them a little bit mentally. But it's been pretty decent. And I'll be honest, I told the QBs yesterday, we already have more offense in now than we'd ever have in a game. So from an install pieces, there's still definitely wrinkles and things that we need to certainly continue to add and install. But the nuts and bolts, I would say, is already in, and now it's working on fine tuning that, and I'll give the guys credit now, for all the different things that were going on, just and trying to do all this through Zoom, and they've really done a nice job. They've really done a nice job. I didn't know how much they would retain. And sure, we had to go back and kind of start a little bit at ground zero, but their base was really pretty solid going through all that, in the summer months, late spring, and all that. So I think that helped us a lot.
Sounds good. Well, I know Coach has been very busy and he's got to get going to another meeting, but we really appreciate your time, Coach, for joining us today.
Thanks. Great to see all you guys. Enjoy your weekend.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, man.